I remember the smell of roasted turkey before I remember the sound of my own heartbeat that day. It was Thanksgiving. Cold outside, but uncomfortably warm inside my parents' house in Ohio. The kind of warmth that clung to your skin, not because of love, but because of tension that had no place to go. I stood by the kitchen counter, pretending to help Mom with the gravy, but my hands were shaking so hard I spilled some on the stove. "Careful, honey," she said softly. Her voice trembled too. "Your dad's in one of his moods." He was always in one of his moods, but this year was different. He'd found out 2 weeks earlier that I'd canceled the credit card he'd been using, the one I'd opened for him 3 years ago when he said he needed help getting back on his feet. Back then, I was proud to help. I'd just gotten promoted, had my own place in Cincinnati, and thought maybe, just maybe, helping my dad would heal whatever had broken between us over the years. I wanted to believe grace could fix what words couldn't. But as I stirred the gravy, I realized grace without boundaries isn't grace, it's permission. The door creaked, and I saw him walk in from the living room. Same steel gray hair, same tired eyes that somehow still carried judgment. His belt buckle gleamed in the kitchen light, as if it had something to say before he did. "Smells good," he said flatly, pulling out a chair at the head of the table. "Hope it tastes as expensive as last year." Mom froze. I knew what he meant. Last year's Thanksgiving had been charged to my card. Every pie, every bottle of wine, every word that stung when he drank too much, all of it. I set the ladle down and took a deep breath. "It's not expensive this year, Dad. I made it myself." He raised an eyebrow. "Without my card?" It was my card, and I cut it. For a moment, everything in the room went still. The sound of the TV in the living room, football commentary and commercials, blurred into white noise. My mom turned off the stove, her hand hovering near mine like she wanted to say something but didn't dare. He laughed, a short, humorless sound. "You cut the card. You cut me off." "No," I said quietly, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "I cut off the part of me that kept hoping you'd see me as more than your safety net." His jaw tightened. "After all I've done for you?" That line, the one he used every time I questioned him, every time he made me feel like I owed him more than I could ever repay. I wanted to shout, to tell him that what he'd done for me, paying for college books one semester, showing up at my graduation late and drunk, criticizing every man I ever dated, didn't mean I had to fund his retirement or his regrets. But instead, I whispered, "You raised me to be responsible. That's all I'm trying to be." He pushed his chair back, the legs scraping hard against the tile. "You've changed, Emily." I met his eyes. "I hope so." When dinner started, the silence between us felt like another guest at the table. My younger brother Luke tried to fill it with jokes, and Mom passed dishes as if she could mend things through mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce. "So, Em," Luke said, forcing a smile, "how's life in the city?" "Busy, but good." Dad cleared his throat. "Busy spending other people's money, I imagine." Luke's smile faded. "Dad." "No," I interrupted. "It's okay. I get it. You're upset. But this isn't about money." He leaned back, folding his arms. "Oh, it's always about money with you. You think because you make a little more than the rest of us, you get to call the shots." "I think," I said, my voice shaking now, "that enabling someone to hurt themselves and others isn't love." He slammed his fork down. "You think you're better than me." The words stung, but they weren't new. They'd been his shield for years, a way to deflect the mirror I never meant to hold up. "No, Dad. I just don't want to live in debt, financially or emotionally." He glared at me. "Then maybe you shouldn't come around here expecting a free meal." Mom gasped. "Jack!" "No," he barked. "If she's gonna act like she doesn't need us, she can eat somewhere else." I stood up slowly. My legs felt like they were made of air. "I didn't come for food. I came for family." His voice was low, like a warning. "You lost that when you cut that card." I looked at him, really looked at him, the man who'd once carried me on his shoulders at the county fair, who'd taught me to change a tire, who'd told me God helps those who help themselves, but never quite learned to take that advice. Maybe this was what rock bottom looked like. Not screaming, not slamming doors, but a quiet heartbreak that comes when you realize love can't always bridge pride. I love you, Dad, but I'm not your bank. He laughed again, bitter and sharp. You're not my daughter either. The words hit me harder than I expected, harder than they should have. I stood there, staring at the man who gave me life and was now cutting me out of his life. Mom reached for my arm, tears glistening in her eyes. Please, both of you, this is Thanksgiving. But I couldn't stay. Not when the air felt this heavy with old wounds and new ones. I grabbed my coat and walked out into the cold November night. The wind stung my face, and for the first time in years, I didn't cry. I thought I would, but all I felt was a strange mix of grief and relief, like I'd finally stopped bleeding from a wound I'd been pretending wasn't there. As I drove away, the yellow leaves scattered across the road like memories I didn't know how to keep. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. He didn't mean it, but I knew he did. And maybe that was okay. The next morning, I woke up to sunlight pushing through the blinds of my small apartment, dust motes dancing in the air like memories I wasn't ready to face. My coffee tasted bitter, but maybe that was just me. The silence in my kitchen was loud, the kind that follows a storm. I scrolled through my phone, half expecting another message from Mom. Nothing. Just the usual Black Friday ads and a couple of texts from friends asking how my family holiday had gone. I didn't reply. How do you sum up being disowned over turkey and credit debt in a text message? By noon, I found myself standing at the kitchen sink, rinsing out my mug over and over. It was something to do, something that made noise in a space where I didn't want to think. That's when I heard a soft knock on my door. I froze. When I opened it, Luke was standing there, my little brother. Wind-burned cheeks, his old flannel jacket zipped up to his chin, holding a grocery bag like it was peace itself. Hey, he said. Hey, I replied, stepping aside. You drove all the way from Dayton? He shrugged. Mom made me. She's worried about you. And Dad's, well, Dad. I didn't ask for details. The way Luke said Dad was enough. He set the grocery bag on my counter and started unpacking it. Leftover turkey, stuffing, pie. She didn't want the food to go to waste. I smiled faintly. She never does. He hesitated, then looked at me. You okay? I wanted to say yes, but I just leaned against the counter and whispered. I don't know. Luke nodded slowly. He shouldn't have said what he said. You didn't deserve that. The words loosened something tight in my chest. He meant it, though. He's been saying versions of that for years. Last night just made it official. Yeah, but still. He rubbed the back of his neck. He's not himself lately. Losing his job messed him up. And when you helped him before, it made him feel like he still mattered. Like he could provide. Even though he wasn't the one providing. I finished for him. Yeah. We stood there for a long minute, the smell of turkey reheating in the microwave filling the room with a strange blend of comfort and regret. Finally, I said, you know what hurts the most? I didn't cut the card to punish him. I did it to save him from himself. But I guess he can't see that. Luke nodded again. You can't save someone who doesn't think they're drowning. I gave a sad little laugh. When did you get so wise? He said with a half smile, since I started therapy. That made me blink. You're in therapy? Yeah, he said simply. Mom doesn't know. Dad would lose it if he did. But I needed someone to talk to. I was tired of walking on eggshells all the time. I felt my throat tighten. You were walking on them too? Huh. All of us were. The honesty in his voice cracked something inside me that I'd been holding together for years. We sat at the table, eating cold turkey and pumpkin pie straight from the container. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel alone in my confusion. You ever think, I asked quietly, that maybe love has a limit? Luke frowned. Like, it runs out? Yeah. He chewed for a second, thinking. I don't think it runs out. I think it just changes shape. Like, sometimes love looks like showing up, and sometimes it looks like walking away. His words sat between us like truth neither of us wanted to admit. That night, after he left, I sat on the couch scrolling through old photos. One of me and Dad at my high school graduation. I was smiling wide. He had his arm around me, both of us pretending the world was simple. Another one. Christmas 2016. He was opening a watch I had bought him. I remember how proud I'd been that year, being able to give him something nice. He'd said, "Guess my girl's finally paying me back." It had been a joke, but it hadn't. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mom. Just a short text. "Can you come by this weekend? He wants to talk." My heart raced. I typed and deleted responses for 5 whole minutes before sending just one word. Okay. By Saturday, the snow had started to fall. Soft, quiet, like the world was trying to cover up the mess we'd made. I pulled into the driveway, my stomach a knot of dread and hope. Mom opened the door before I even knocked. She hugged me tight, the kind of hug that said more than words ever could. "He's in the garage," she whispered. The garage, his safe place. The smell of oil, wood shavings, and regret hit me as soon as I stepped in. He was sitting at his old workbench staring at nothing. A half-empty coffee cup sat beside him. "Hi, Dad," I said softly. He didn't turn around at first. Then, after a long moment, he said, "You came. Mom said you wanted to talk." He nodded slowly, then looked at me. His eyes were red, tired. "I said some things I shouldn't have." "You think?" I said, before I could stop myself. Then I sighed. "Sorry. It hurt." He nodded again. "I know. And I know you think I used you. Maybe I did. I just didn't know how else to feel useful." Something in his voice, small, defeated, made my heart ache. "Dad, I never wanted to take your pride away. I just wanted to stop pretending that helping you wasn't breaking me." He rubbed his temples. "You're right. I've been angry for a long time. Not at you, at myself, for what I didn't do, for how I failed your mom, for needing your help." I swallowed hard. "You didn't fail us, Dad. You just stopped trying to get back up." He let out a shaky breath. "And you," his voice cracked, "you kept believing I could." The tears came before I could stop them. "Because you're my dad." He looked down at his hands, calloused and trembling. "I was proud of you, still am. I just didn't know how to show it without tearing you down." For the first time, he sounded human again, not like the angry man at the table, but like the father who used to tell me bedtime stories when Mom worked nights. "I don't need perfect," I said softly. "Just honest." He nodded. "Then let's start there." I nodded too, wiping my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe we both wanted the same thing. Not a redo, but a restart. The weeks after that conversation were quiet, too quiet. Christmas came and went without a single call from Dad. Mom sent me a card with a picture of a snow-covered barn on the front, signed simply, "Love, Mom." She didn't mention him, and I didn't ask. Work became my distraction. Long hours, late nights, endless coffee. But every time I walked past the Christmas tree in the office lobby, something inside me ached, a reminder that the distance I thought would heal me had just made the silence louder. Then, one Sunday morning in January, my phone rang. It was Mom. Her voice was shaky. "He's in the hospital." The words dropped like ice in my chest. "What happened?" "Chest pains. They said it wasn't a full heart attack, but—" She took a deep breath. "He's scared, Emily. Really scared." I didn't even pack properly. I just grabbed my coat and keys, praying silently the whole drive to Dayton. The kind of prayer that doesn't have fancy words, just raw, trembling hope that grace might still reach a man who didn't know how to ask for it. When I walked into the hospital room, he looked smaller. The man who'd once seemed larger than life was now a fragile version of himself, hooked up to monitors that beeped softly in rhythm with his guilt. He looked at me, surprised. "You came." "I did," I said, setting my bag down gently. "How are you feeling?" "Like an old fool," he murmured. I tried to smile, but my throat closed up. "You scared us." He nodded, staring at the ceiling. "Guess I needed a wake-up call." The air between us was heavy, but not angry this time. Just unfinished. He turned his head toward me. "Emily, I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, about what I said." I swallowed hard. "You don't have to." "I do." His voice was rough but steady. "I knew you were right to cut that card." I didn't see it then, but I do now. I was using it like a crutch, and when you took it away, I blamed you instead of looking at myself. Tears blurred my vision. "Dad." He shook his head weakly. "Let me finish. I was proud of you, but that pride twisted into something ugly. I told myself I deserved help when the truth is, I was ashamed of needing it." I reached for his hand. His fingers felt cold but alive. "You're human, Dad. We all need help sometimes." He gave a small laugh, one that carried more sadness than humor. "You sound like your mother." "That's a compliment," I said softly. He nodded, then whispered, "I want to make things right, Em. I don't want to leave this world with you thinking I only loved you for what you gave me." My chest tightened. "Then don't leave it that way. Start here." His eyes met mine, tired but sincere. "I'm sorry." It wasn't a grand apology, no sweeping music, no perfect timing, just a quiet surrender of ego and pain. And that made it real. I squeezed his hand. "I forgive you." The words came easier than I expected, like they'd been sitting at the edge of my heart, waiting for this moment. He exhaled shakily, a tear slipping down his cheek. "Guess that card wasn't the only thing that needed cutting." I laughed softly through my tears. "Guess not." He was discharged a few days later. Recovery was slow, but different this time. He went to counseling, he stopped drinking, he even started volunteering at the local food pantry, a place he used to mock when I donated money there. And every Sunday, he'd call. Sometimes it was short, just a "how's work" or "did you eat?" But each call felt like a brick being laid, rebuilding something I thought was beyond repair. By spring, I drove back home for Easter dinner. It wasn't fancy. Mom's ham, mashed potatoes, and one of Dad's famous banana puddings that looked terrible but tasted incredible. When we sat down to eat, he bowed his head. "Before we pray, I just want to say something." Mom and I exchanged a glance. He cleared his throat. "I spent a long time thinking love was about control, about providing, but my daughter taught me it's really about grace, the kind that forgives, even when it doesn't have to." Mom's eyes filled with tears. Mine did too. He looked at me. "Thank you, Emily, for cutting that card, for cutting me off when I needed it most. You saved me from myself." I smiled through my tears. "You did the hard part, Dad." He chuckled softly. "Maybe, but you gave me the reason to try." We prayed together, hands clasped. His grip was firm, steady, a stark contrast to the man who'd once let go so easily. After dinner, I helped Mom with the dishes, while Dad watched the news in the other room. She leaned over and whispered, "He's different, you know. He listens now. He even helps with the bills." I smiled. "That's good. I'm proud of him." She looked at me tenderly. "He's proud of you too. He just didn't know how to say it until now." When I left that night, Dad followed me to the door. The air was cool, the sky streaked with pink and gold. "Hey," he said, I wanted to give you something." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a check. Not large, but enough to mean something. He said, "I don't want you to think I'm trying to pay you back. This is just me, doing what a dad should." I stared at it, overwhelmed. "You don't have to." He interrupted, smiling softly. "I know, but I want to." I took the envelope, tears stinging my eyes again. "Thank you." He nodded. "You taught me what love looks like when it's real. Not bought, just given." I hugged him then, longer than I had in years, and in that embrace, the weight of years, anger, guilt, pride, all seemed to melt away. As I drove back home that night, I thought about that Thanksgiving, about how something so painful had turned into something holy. Love had finally learned its shape in our family. And maybe that's what grace really is, not fixing what's broken, but finding beauty in the pieces that remain.